Good morning, dear students. I am Shivaji Ramagudaji, Assistant Professor of English, Government Postgrad College, Kittur. Program BA, Bachelor of Arts, Subject Optional English, Third Semester, University, Rani Chennamma University, Belagavi, the session 21. Dear student, in the previous class, we have already learnt about the various ages of English literature. The Old English period, the Middle English period, the Elizabethan age, the Augustan age, and most probably the Romantic age. We have already learnt and we having the knowledge about this period. Now in this period, I will give you the brief introduction about the Victorian age and the introduction of the poetry about the Victorian age. So before start this class, I have to give a brief introduction about how the Victorian age is commenced and what are the characteristics of Victorian age, how the Victorian age is started, and who are the most well-known writers of this period. So the era of Queen Victorian reign, it starts in 1837 and it ends in 1901, but sometimes this period is dated 1832. Why this period is dated 1832 means in the year 1832 the first Reformation bill was introduced in English, so that way this period is included from 1832 to 1901, and sometimes when the Queen Victoria reign, it starts from 1837 and ends in 1901. So this period is remarkable in the period of English literature because the variety of subject has introduced in this period. It is a period of intense and prolific activity in literature, especially in the field of novel, poetry, philosophy, and essay. This period has reached in the high level because this is a period we have seen the first time there is a conflict between the religion and science. The mainly focused subject the writers have chosen, that is a religion, and the religion and science as their conflict. So dear student, this period is also called as a Victorian age. This period is also called as the Tennyson, the Alfred Tennyson, the age of Tennyson also we have to call this period. So it was the period of Queen Victoria reign. We have already seen in 1837 to 1901, and it was the period of the great literary expansion, means the variety of subject, the variety of subject, the poet, the essayist, the philosophers, they have introduced in this period. So the most well known, the contributor of these periods are Thomas Love Peacock, Carlyle, William Barnes, Cardinal Newman, J.S. Mill, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Tennyson, Charles Darwin, Charlotte Bronte, that is the Bronte sisters, George Eliot, Ruskin, Matthew Arnold, Hopkins, Collins, T.H. Huxley, George Meredith, William Morris, Samuel Butler, and Hopkins. These are the major writers we have seen in the Victorian period. So the Victorian England was the period of a grandeur and the prosperity along with the expansion of the wealth, and culture. So student, I have already told about you about this period, how the rich variety of the subject, and we have seen the many cultures which progress in this Victorian period. The Victorian age in English literature was the age of Queen Victoria, who ruled Britain in the 19th century. So in the 19th century, the Queen Victoria ruled. So that way, this period we called as a Victorian age. This age comes after the Romantic age. Means the Victorian period started after the end of the Romantic period, and this period ends with the beginning of the modern age. Means in the 20th century, 1901, this age closed and the new era has started, that is the modernism wave has flowed in England. The Victorian age was in many ways the most glorious age in the history of English, because it made unexpected progress in all the spheres of life and the British Empire. Means student, the contemporary social reforms has developed in this period, and the writers, they have chosen the topic about the industrial revolution, because it's a period of industrial revolution in England, and the theory of evolution, the Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, and the political and social reforms also we have seen in this period. That is, the Reformation Bill was introduced, and the new page we have seen in England that time. It was an age of material prosperity. The material prosperity we have seen in their poems, in their novels, and the political awakening. There is a change of political atmosphere in England. Democratic reforms, means the Reformation Bill was introduced in the England, and industrial and mechanical advancement. There we have seen in England the industrial revolution, which impacted on the social lives, and all these writers, they have selected these types of material for their writings. Educational expansion, slowly there is the Macaulay period has started. He has introduced the English in India also. The new ways we have seen in India also. Imperialism and the empire building, the humanitarian, and all providing energy and activity in social life. However, it was strangely the time of pessimism for poets, writers, and thinkers. Already when the end of the Romantic period, when this new Victorian period started, there the pessimism has slowly developed in the writings of the writers, and they have focused mainly on the medieval fables, legends, and the conflict between science and religion. The most scholars severally criticized this age and denounced the external gloss and glitter of material prosperity in the form of the mechanical progress. Because of this period, they have started to criticize also. So dear student, we have seen how the Victorian period has developed in England, and who are the main contributor to this period, and what are the main impacts we have to see about the Victorian period. So next we have to move about the Victorian poetry. The Victorian poetry. So the Victorian poets, they have mainly focused, that is, we have already discussed that is a pessimism or focus on religion and science conflict, then the radical social change of various subjects, the medieval fables and legends also they have concentrated in their writings. And this Victorian period, the Victorian poetry has divided into two types. First, the high Victorian poetry, and second one, and the most important, the pre-Raphaelite poetry. The pre-Raphaelite poetry is a movement. It was established in England 1848, and it is a group or the movement of the English painters, poets, and the art critics. So it will discuss in the later period. We have to concentrate about the Victorian earliest poets or the high poets, and who are the main important poets of this period. So the contributor of Victorian poetry mainly are Robert Browning, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Alfred Tennyson, Matthew Arnold, and J.M. Hopkins. Some minor poets also they have contributed to this period, but these are the few writers, the few poets who have contributed for this period. So the first I want to be introduced about the Alfred Tennyson. Alfred Tennyson is one of the important poet who have contributed number of poetry to the Victorian period, and his most well-known and important poets are In Memoriam, Ulysses, The Lady of Shalott, The Lotus Eaters, Morte da Arthur. These are his most famous poems. He contributed to the period of Victorian poetry. Robert Browning. When we think about the dramatic monologue, we ultimately think about Robert Browning. Robert Browning is a champion of dramatic monologue, and he is expert in right to the lyric poem. Lyric is a short poem. So he has contributed a number of dramatic monologues in English period, and those the most important dramatic monologues are Pippa Passes, Andrea del Sarto, My Last Duchess, The Last Ride Together. These these some poems he has contributed in Victorian poetry. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, she has contributed The Cry of Children, The Copper Grave. Her well-known poems she contributed to this period. And the next notable poet of this period, Matthew Arnold. Matthew Arnold has contributed the poems in this period: Dover Beach, Westminster Abbey, Sohrab and Rustam, Scholar, Gypsy. He has written a number of poems, but these are the most famous poems he has introduced in his period. He has written for the contribution of the Victorian poetry. G.M. Hopkins. So he also wrote a number of poetry, and the most important poet of this period, he wrote The Wreck of the Deutschland, The Philosopher's Stone, and other poems, The Piet's Mederica. These are his contribution to the field of the Victorian poetry. So dear student, in this class we have discussed about the characteristics about the Victorian period, the important writers of this period, introduction about the poetry, who are the important poets of this period. So let us we go about the quick revision, how you understand about this class. So I'll ask some multiple choice questions. You have to be ready to answer these questions. So the first question is, the Victorian age is proceeded by, means when the Victorian age is started, after which age the Victorian age is commenced. Option A, the Romantic age. Option B, the Modern age. Option C, the Elizabethan period. Option D, the age of Pope. And probably the answer is option B, the Romantic age. This is a right answer because it commenced big after the Romantic age and it ends with the modern period. The next question is, the Victorian age started, or what is the period of Victorian age from to? Option A, 1834 to 1907, 1833 to 1906, 1832 to 1901, 1838 to 1900. And obviously the right answer is C, 1832 to 1901. This period has commenced. And most important questions, the first Reformation Bill was introduced in England, or the first Reformation Bill was produced in England 1834, 1833, 1832, 1836. And the right answer is C, 1832. Queen Victoria assessed the throne in the year 1851, 1839, 1837, 1851. And the right answer is 1837. Victorian poetry finds interest in, especially the Victorian poets, they have find the interest. Option A, medievalism. Option B, intellectualism. Option C, feudalism. Option D, urban culture. And the right answer is medievalism. They have mainly focused their subject on medievalism. So dear student, for your higher reference, for higher notes, you have to refer these books. These are the reference books for your note. A.R. Goodman's The History of English Literature, Volume 2, Edward Albert's History of English Literature, and A History of English Literature by Mundra and Mundra. Thank you so much.